Hey there, it's Trisha, and I wanted to go over a few things from Friday the 20th. I used two setups using three charts with indicators for confirmation before ever taking a trade. As I've said before, a very conservative way to trade. It's not for everybody, but it works for me. And you can check those out at www.easyemintrade.com. Now, I'd like to remind everybody that, when I'm going through these setups as they occur, why I'm taking something, why I'm not taking something, I really want you to pay attention to the setups themselves based on the information that I give you in the ebook. Not necessarily my trades as they're setting up on my charts, because we are all using different platforms, and you might get an entry that sets up before mine, or you might get an entry that sets up after mine, or you may not even get any setup near where mine sets up, or vice versa. I might not get it where your sets up. So important just to take notice as to the divergence and what I'm looking at, and the trend indicator, just everything in alignment, because as long as you take those things based on your charts and how your setups are occurring as you're watching them on your charts, you'll be fine. The setup is still relevant on your charts. Doesn't have to be setting up exactly like mine. So I did just want to point that out because I know a couple of you did not have the same setups that I had, I think, on the 17th. And that will happen. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that because of the different platforms that we're all using. But anyway, we'll do our best and just point out how the setups occur, and hopefully that will help you to recognize them as they occur on your charts. I wanted to point out a trade that I did not take, and I'm going to point out more of those today because I want to show you what's going on basically on the charts and what's going through my mind as these are setting up. So I've got this chart here, our smaller tick chart, and I'm going to show you why I would not take this trade. I know somebody was talking about it, and so obviously we don't know what's to the left because I have it set up that way. So we have price going higher, indicator going lower, and we have our short firing off. So we're wondering, okay, is this going to go lower? If you look at our longer tick chart, you can see we have the low from the previous day there. So, there is a little bit of room there, not a lot, about 3 points. So you have to know that going in, that realistically, most times you're going to get a stall or a bounce in that area. So if everything's setting up and you choose to take that, you certainly can. But this bar is not closed yet, which is still not a big deal because we're below both moving averages. But we are so close to the low for me. And if you look at our trending indicator, this is right where it is setting up. So it's just getting ready to cross over our 20 mark. So, I would opt not to take that just because of how close I am to the low from the previous day. Now, as the trade progresses, you can see that it would not have worked out. You actually got a bounce there. And obviously looking here, you can see that as well. So, obviously, if we weren't as close to this, the low from the previous day, I might have taken that, especially if we were, more over our trend indicator. As you can see, this is right where that area set up, was right as it was crossing over. So, again, it's not over 20, and if it was over 20, a little bit more, I may have taken it if the low from the previous day was not so close. So that is why I pass on that trade. I know, oftentimes it's easier to go back and look at it and, critique yourself as to why something didn't work out. And I strongly recommend that everybody do that because it will definitely help you in your recognition. This is a trade that occurred at 10:25 right here, and this is the bar that it's setting up on here. Now, I'm showing you this just because I want to point, why I'm passing on things too as they set up. Some people will just jump in and out based on the squeeze firing off, and, you just don't know if it's going to work or not going to work. So with that said, because of where price action is here, this bar is not closed yet, and it didn't appear to me that it was even close to being closed yet. So it's not closed above either of the moving averages, so we're not looking long. So that's why I'd pass on this trade here. Also, if you notice, our trend indicator is now, back below 20. Let's see if it's below yet. Yeah, it's just getting ready to cross below 20. So, that's why you'd pass on that long. We're not looking for longs yet, and we're not over 20. Because even though you do have your squeeze firing off and we haven't crossed into overbought territory yet, that's why you're not going to take this trade. The next trade that I want to show you occurred at 12:40, and this is one that I would pass on as well. Even though we have price going basically sideways, we actually have a higher high here and a lower low here on our indicator. So, so far that looks like a great setup, except we're not over 20 on our indicator. This is about where it's setting up, is right around here. And we do have the squeeze firing off, and realistically, if you were entering, you would enter in over here somewhere. This is the bar that it's setting up on our longer tick chart, and this bar is not closed yet. So before this bar closes, we're above the one moving average, so we really don't know what's going to happen. For me personally, also we're close to the low from the previous day. So again, for me, even if it was over 20, I would be more apt to pass on that unless I had more room, between where the trade is occurring and where the low from the previous day is once this bar closed. That's just not enough room for me. And if it was a strong trend, meaning it was well over 20, then you might be more apt to take that trade because you have a better chance of it slicing right through that low from the previous day. So at this point, we don't have that. So that's why I pass on that trade. You can see that it would have worked out fine, but this is why I passed on it. If you took it, then fine. The trend indicator was not over 20, but you can certainly fix the rules to complement your style of trading and your personality. You don't have to do exactly what I do. I'm just trying to point out, what's going through my mind, why I'm passing on a trade or why I take a trade. Now, this is a trade that I did take. This was at 120, and we have our price going higher. We're below the low from yesterday, so I'm okay with that. We have our like I said, price going higher, indicator going lower, so we have divergence. So we get our squeeze firing off here, actually enter in over here, and actually what happened was I got my +2, and then I was stopped out over here at +1. I had moved my stop to the high of these bars here, and obviously got stopped out. But, had I left my original 2-point stop or even moved it to my entry point, would have went on to be a huge winner. But, unfortunately, that's not anything that at the time. You just have to take your stop, and that's just the way it is. And that's what you have to get in the habit of doing, is put your stop in, and if it hits it, then oh well, it wasn't meant to be, and just move on. If you happen to get another setup, then great. If you don't, then just sit there and wait for the next one. You can't beat yourself up about the price coming up and stopping you out, because what if price would have went against you? So still had a profit of +2 and +1. So nothing that we can do about missing that huge move there. There was a trade that set up at 339. Almost 340. No, I don't trade after 330, so I would never have taken this trade. But I'm going to point out how it was setting up, and what we have here is price going higher, indicator going lower. We have our squeeze firing off. Our trend indicator actually is right around this area, so we're over 20. Now, with that said, why you would not take this trade, or why I would not take this trade even if I was trading at that time of day. This is the bar that it's setting up on. This bar has not closed below the moving average. This bar, even the next bar, did not close below the moving average. It was actually 344 before this bar ever closed, and you knew that it was going to go lower. Also, if you look at our MACD, this is still not in alignment in order to go short, at least for me to go short. So yeah, even though you have this setting up on your smaller tick chart, the reasons that I state here on the longer tick chart are why I would pass. You certainly don't have to do that, but that's how I choose to trade. And like I said, I'm just pointing out what's going through my mind. Like I said, I wasn't even here at that time of day, but did want to point that out. So anyway, you can go to www.easyemintrade.com and check those setups out.